Hi, my name is Hondo.
My name's Louis.
My name's Danny.
My name's Vanessa.
And we are the Realists.
Mi sembrava di avere le idee così chiare. Volevo fare un film onesto, senza bugie di nessun genere. Un film che potesse essere utile un po' a tutti, che aiutasse a seppellire per sempre tutto quello che di morto ci portiamo dentro. A che punto avrò sbagliato strada?
So, our first movie for today is 8.5 by Federico Fellini, which is filmed in 1963, starring Mr. Marcello Mastroianni, if I'm saying that right. So, let's start with what did you think about the film as a whole?
Overall, it was an interesting movie, but yes, it was very eclectic. There were many parts that I did like, but also many parts that I didn't like. If I had to rate it out of 10, I'd probably say it was a 6.5.
Right.
What
Parts did you actually like about the movie?
Overall, it was an interesting movie, but yes, it was very eclectic. There were many parts that I did like, but also many parts that I didn't like. If I had to rate it out of 10, I'd probably say it was a 6.5.
Right. What parts did you actually like about the movie?
It was very visually pleasing.
Also, it kind of is,
Yeah, and the storyline, how it was a film about a guy making a film, like a space film.
Kind of like an Inception thing.
Yes.
Yeah. So is there what about the what are the things that you disliked about it? Was it just because you liked it visually, So what's something that you didn't like about it?
The subtitles weren't great. Being white on a black and white film,
Right. Did it affect you too much?
Yeah, and sometimes I think when it jumped to him dreaming or thinking about his parents, I found that really strange and hard to follow because it was chopping and changing. I'm like, what's happening, sort of thing.
Oh, okay. Oh.
Yeah.
So how about you? What do you think about the movie?
I personally didn't enjoy the movie that much. Overall, I did find it very difficult to follow with the subtitles, and also how you mentioned about how it chops and changes, especially when he was dreaming, and then all of a sudden he would be back in the movie, and it was kind of hard to follow through and be like, is he still dreaming, or there was no indication directly of what was going on.
What do you think about the film?
Yeah, I thought it was quite interesting visually. There were some nice aesthetic shots, I think.
Okay.
And one of my favourite cinematography shots was at the beginning with the man falling to the ground or to the ocean. I thought that was really interesting.
He was on the rope and Alright, so our next movie is Alphaville, directed by Jean-Luc Godard, starring Eddie Constantine, and it is a sci-fi French film made in 1965. So, thoughts? What do you guys have?
I think it was quite a confusing plot line to follow.
Okay.
I agree with that.
Because there was lots of sophisticated knowledge.
Right. Too much information, you'd say,
information overload.
Yeah. But then it was also just a very intelligent film.
Okay.
So if you were to really apply your mind to it, you could probably follow it.
Yeah.
I feel like it was definitely aimed for an older generation that would understand what is going on in the movie. But yeah, I definitely agree that there was just a lot happening in one movie.
So you say that all of you guys would say that it was a very kind of a tough
complex, tough to.
I mean, even the film style was quite confusing because it was a future science fiction film, but it was not in terms of visual effects.
Right.
Because it was filmed in the Paris of the time. So, in a moral sense, it was future science fiction, but there was no gadgetry or sort of extreme visual effects or anything.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So how about you guys? What do you guys think about the film?
I
Or
like.
did it look futuristic to you?
I don't really think so. Like, it was filmed post-war Paris, and like
Right, yeah.
what you did see of the Paris streets and stuff, it looked quite run down and sad. Like, you could see the effects of like the depression, if the depression hit Paris.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Also, how they killed people. The computer, the machine that was in charge, pretty much, and like. The police, how they killed people that said certain words from memory and like did certain things. I think that was really like brutal. Like just whoa, I'm like seriously.
Right. But the thing is, like in the film though, it's like the
But
killing wasn't that.
It wasn't
gory.
that bad. It wasn't gory.
In
It wasn't
our
like the
in
horror
our
film,
yeah in
no.
our standards, it's like the violence isn't quite how we think it is.
Yeah.
You know, especially that sequence where he tries to beat that the bodyguard up or something.
Yeah.
Where it's just like
That was actually
4
so
shots
comical.
where it's like
Yeah.
the guy has hands on his head and whatnot. Yeah, and then like the car on his the car tire on his head and then just cuts.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like also with this movie, just the same with the last movie we spoke about, the women were once again objects. Like
Right.
when
I
he
agree.
first came into the hotel, he had the mistress looking after him, getting everything ready for him. And all throughout the movie, you know, she was just there to look after him, and then as she said, she's never said the word love.
Right.
So it's
She
just
doesn't know. She doesn't
yeah,
know.
and from, you know, like it's just, once again, it just shows that from back in those days, that women still were just, didn't have their own voice, and they were just an object to males.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Team d'Alphaville par les boulevards périphériques. Roulant toute la nuit dans l'espace intersidéral, nous serons demain dans notre pays. Ne vous retournez pas.
Vous croyez qu'ils sont tous morts?
Non, pas encore. Ils vont peut-être guérir, d'ailleurs. Qu'Alphaville deviendra une cité heureuse comme Florence, comme Angoulême City, comme Tokiorama. Ne vous retournez pas.
Okay, so the genre of the film, because it is a sci-fi, but to our standards, it's not quite the sci-fi we're used to.
Yeah.
So
It's like nothing like Star Wars, but then the concept of that, a different town, like what did they call it? I don't remember, but like
So
the outskirts, and then there was Alpha Field. It was like there were 2 different planets, but like they were just towns, you know.
yeah, connected
And you
by
could travel by a
one-way.
highway or
Yeah,
something
exactly,
to a
yeah.
different planet. Yeah.
They just said that's how you do it.
It sort of starts out as a film noir,
Okay, yeah.
but then there's also some comedy in there, and there's like, I think, lots of themes of religion
Mm-hmm.
and sciencey sort of things.
Well, like the computer being kind of like the god of.
Actually,
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay.
And like maybe when they killed people, like they made it like a sacrifice that could be seen as sacrificial.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good description.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a love story in there too, so there's a bit of a romance genre too.
Oh, between
Yeah.
the girl taking care of him and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The detective.
Them going off together while he rescues her.
So is that like
And
kind
they
of?
drive off, and then she says, "I love you."
So would you say like kind of like that's the typical role? Like,
Yeah.
how are you saying that they're kind of objects, but there's also like they're always the love interest.
Yeah,
in the
there's
film.
always,
Yeah.
there's always like a love factor somewhere in between. But also I found it quite strange when he goes into the hotel room, and the big fat guy was paying this prostitute
yeah.
to have sex with him.
Right. Yeah.
I did not
That
like
was
that
a
scene.
strange scene I found personally.
That was really strange.
Yeah,
Well,
just really out of context.
It all is.
Yeah. Like all of a sudden he's trying
It
to get
just-
all this like information about this guy, and then
Boom.
right.
right there,
Yeah,
What's
yeah.
the point of this?
he's
scene?
paying this female to do stuff, and and also they zoom up on her face and you can tell that she's not enjoying it either.
So you would say like she's probably like one of those the robots of the city, like she's got nothing.
Yeah.
But see, it's a bit difficult to follow. You'd say that
There's a lot
storyline,
happening.
yeah. It's like you gotta step back and kind of think of like, how does this fit?
Yeah.
How he's trying to do it.
Yeah, I feel like that's what happened with majority of the movie is you think you're on track of what's going on, but then it will take a complete left turn. And then you'll be like, so this is happening now. And then, it was a lot.
Alright, our next movie is a Blade Runner, directed by Ridley Scott, starring Harrison Ford, and it was made in 1982. So, what are you guys' thoughts about the movie?
It was a really good movie. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I wanted to watch it again, like, straight after, pretty much.
Right.
Yeah, probably because like it was more easy to relate to. I mean, 2019, but back then it was like 1982. But looking at all the aspects in it, I'm like, wow, they actually did a really good job of like interpreting what the future would be like.
So there's like just the way that they thought.
Yes.
Yeah, like just the world building that they did. Like you enjoyed that. Okay.
I thoroughly enjoyed the movie also. I thought it was much more easier to follow.
Right.
Also because it wasn't in black and white or subtitles.
Right.
So yeah, I definitely feel like they did a really good job for a movie that was in the 1980s. It definitely had more context that was easier to follow compared to the other two.
So it's got like a more kind of like traditional way of stories.
Yeah, well, like with the other two, I feel like it was for a more older generation, and also because it was so far back that personally, I didn't understand what was kind of going on and how.
Like the context.
Yeah,
the context of
but with this movie, it was kind of more straightforward. Even though it was still old, it still felt like it was a movie that could have been done.
And like the
early
2000s.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it was really impressive for its time, I reckon. It's hard to believe that it was made in 1982,
Right. So like the special effects.
I honestly thought it was made in like the early 2000s when I saw, whoa, 1982, I'm like, okay, that's like really good.
Right, yeah.
But it was quite funny seeing their prediction of the future in 2019.
So how about the action in the movie? Like, what do you guys think about it?
I felt like the action in the movie was always constant. There was always something. There was never a down moment in that movie. I felt like it was always fast paced. There was always this and this and this happening, and I felt like there was, you know, in some movies how they just kind of pace it out and there'll be like a little blah blah,
slower,
and then bang, something will happen. But with this movie, it was just constant something going on, whether
so the pace is a bit more manageable.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Pretty much like either he's fighting or he's with the lady or there's flying cars in the future or if not even if it's about him, it's about the
other replicants.
Yeah, the replicants that are like doing stuff, like killing the other people.
Like that one that the leader, I forget his name, but with the snowy blonde hair.
Right.
And he says to his other friend or the other replicant, "Have you got your photos, or did you find your photos?" Like that was an action in itself, but like a bit more down, but it was still
kind of like
downbeat, but action like a good pace. And he's like, "No, I didn't find them." Like it was sort of like, oh,
it's like,
it all had meaning.
Yeah,
like it all had meaning. Yeah.
Just like even in 5 lines, they got one thing.
Yeah, they pretty much had one scene, just like done.
Yeah.
And like wording or just like simple actions that just brought the whole movie together.
Okay, right. You got anything to add to that?
Not really.
Alright.
I think the final scene at the end where the snowy blonde-haired replicant actually saves Harrison Ford from falling off that building was
Right.
really, like as Paul said in the lecture after we watched it, it was like a symbol or symbolism of religion, like how God or Jesus sacrificed his life to save all of our sins. It's like the replicants being Jesus and saving the guy, like, you know, truce, like
Because
everything's
that's what he
sorted.
wanted,
That's
yeah.
it, yeah.
He wanted just like a clean slate, and he wanted to be, you know, like in charge of everything, because he obviously wanted to take over.
Right.
So it's that I get what you mean by saying he was doing the Jesus
So you
thing, yeah.
so you think that the snowy-haired replicant was kind of like the Jesus figure in the film?
Yeah,
Or
but
would you
also
say-
10 times more sins.
Right, yeah. Because it's
More
interesting.
towards like that last
Yeah,
couple
yeah.
of scenes.
It's kind of like a weird kind of cycle where he was made by humans, then now he's kind of like coming back and saving another human.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like
It's like he owes them something, because at the end of the day, like you just said, the humans made him. So without the humans, he wouldn't be here.
But he did kill his creator, so it's kind of like
Yeah.
it's this weird triangle.
Yeah, it's just
circle.
a
That's
game.
Yeah.
circle and
It's a very existential. I
Yeah.
would say, maybe.
Yeah.
Existential question for that guy. Yeah.
We'll conclude it.
Okay.
I yawned at one point in that, but I think we can.
I was coughing. I was like
Okay.
trying so hard.
Yeah.
All right. So so kind of like in comparison with like all the films that we've seen, because this is new media. Well, I feel like the movie itself, or Monsters, is kind of like it has like the sentiment of what Fellini kind of did for 8.5. So it's kind of like the only difference is just like you can just see the inexperience and kind of the technical
difficulties that they
difficult.
had.
Yeah.
I mean, like Fellini's been doing what he did 7 movies prior to that, and a short film.
Yeah.
So he's got the experience to make something, to express kind of like his thoughts and ideas.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, these guys, the Four-Eyed Monsters, it's kind of like you can, because this is their first movie and it's like their first foray into filmmaking. You can just see how they are kind of doing experimental stuff, but at the same time, it's like I can see that if they understood everything about the traditional media, they could probably make kind of like there would be a purpose, I would say, to like their experimenting.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
Well, I feel I definitely know what you're talking about then, but then it's like we also have to give them credit for the fact that personally I think that they didn't put much thought into it. They were more just like, I want to make a movie. And they were experimenting with YouTube, and they were just like, we're going to make a movie.
Right.
Because they didn't even put that much money towards the movie, and as we had in the discussion that they actually even struggled with money to be able to. So if they did have the money factor, I feel like they could have done more.
Right.
But because they had such low funds to make the movie what it could have been, they had to just make do and do it all themselves. And then that's what I kind of do give them credit for, is the fact that they directed it. Not only so
tight budget kind of thing.
Yeah, so they pretty much did it all by themselves. They did it. They are the directors. They are the main characters, and they did edit it. So they did everything.
They're like
then.
the jack of all trades.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So but as in aspects to the other movies, Blade Runner,
There were
all
like
those
writers,
ones, there was all these different people to help them, and also
Right.
money backing them up.
Yeah. So the production value. Of course, kind of.
So that's kind
I
of.
can see what you're saying.
Yeah.
You seem to have a good attitude. Where do you live? Let's exchange a few more pics if you have any. I think I might find you hot.